Hey everybody, this is Jessica. I wanted to wish you all a beautiful day because if you're in Savannah, certainly you're enjoying this crisp weather. But I wanted to take you out to Laurel Grove with me today so that we could visit the gravesite of Juliette Gordon-Low. So if that name doesn't ring a bell, Juliette actually founded the Girl Scouts of America. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into the area where she is buried because I want to see, or I apologize, I want to show you the love that continues for this woman. So just wait until I show you what you're about to see. So come with me. All right, so Juliette Kinsey Gordon was born on Halloween of 1860 to Nellie Kinsey Gordon and William Washington Gordon. She was the second of 6 children, and Juliette, also named, or I should say called affectionately by the name Daisy, always had a shining and a stunning personality. So if you have been involved in the Girl Scouts, you might remember the Daisies, or the name of the youngest troop. I like to use some adjectives to describe the kind of person that Juliette is remembered as having been. She is described as having been warm-hearted, profane, you gotta love that one, lovable, and witty. She was always creative. So as a young woman, she loved reading Dickens, Thackeray, many other authors, and as a child she wrote plays, directed them, and starred in them. So it's kind of funny because of course her other siblings were written into the more minor parts of these plays. But Juliette was very capable. She didn't conform to what I guess you would say typical Victorian standard. She worked in wood. Eventually she dabbled in metalworking. She was a painter as well. There's also some things about Juliette that you might not hear elsewhere. One was that she was a terrible speller. It's said that her brother Willie also had the same affliction, and that while they were at Yale, they would write letters back and forth to one another, and it's said that at the end, each one would normally fabricate some kind of apology to pardon their sibling. I love the fact that Juliette adored animals. This is what really tugs on my heartstring as a dog mom and the kind of person that will save an animal if I absolutely can. It's written in her biography that when she was a teenager, she was at a neighboring farm, and while she was there, a mother cow had just had a stillborn calf. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen animals grieve, and it's a really hard thing to watch. Animals scream, animals act out, and according to legend, Juliette was able to approach this bereaved animal and wrap her arms around its neck, giving it the consolation that it needed in that moment. Here's another one you might not know. Juliette was actually both deaf in both ears. So these events, the cause of these, or of the deafness, was as the result of two different instances. So as a young woman, she had been experiencing ear pain, and she went to a physician who she, quote unquote, coaxed into pouring silver nitrate into her ear. That wasn't such a good move, and it did rupture her eardrum. Now, she married in 1886 as she and her new husband were exiting the sanctuary, and people were throwing grains of rice at the couple, as is so traditional. One of those grains became lodged in her other eardrum. Now, Juliette went on to say, regarding her complete deafness, that sacrifices only improved her character. Now, we don't know a whole lot about her marriage to Andrew Low. He was considered a ladies' man. They married in 1886. There's some thought that their relationship was on the decline because Juliette could not conceive, because she probably had ovarian issues. So at one point they decided to live separately. She stayed in the States most of the time, but certainly would travel back and forth to the UK, whereas he stayed predominantly in Scotland and England. Now, it took a lot for a woman to face the possibility of a divorce, especially during this time period. But it was considered prudent in Juliette's eyes to go forward with the proceedings. Now, in 1905, her husband died of a seizure. Even though they had been drawing up papers, our equivalent of alimony she would receive, he left all of his holdings to his mistress, a woman named Anna Bateman. But I suppose you could say that Juliette sort of had the last laugh, because certainly the family from which she came did not hurt for anything financially. Now, in the early 1910s, Juliette visited England, where she met Robert Baden-Powell and his sister Agnes. Agnes was the founder of the Girl Guides, and Robert was the founder of the Boy Scouts. So Juliette always had a soft spot for children in her life, and she thought that in bringing something similar to the United States would create great opportunity for young girls. The ability to learn things that they might not otherwise. Also, the idea that they were capable of doing things that they might not be told they were capable of. So, Juliette taught them many things, and she also employed the help of other experienced outdoors people. And what I mean by that is that the Girl Scouts were taught everything from knot tying to map reading to signaling and all that good stuff about camping. Now, in 1911, Juliette had a cousin, Nina Anderson Pape, who sort of worked with Juliette on ideas about how they could better the lives of young women. So Nina started the Pape School again in 1911, in 1912, they hosted the first 2 Girl Scout troops. So they were called the White Roses and the Carnations, and I suppose you could say the rest is history. But just one point that I think a lot of folks don't realize: black children were never banned from the Girl Scouts. And it only took about another 10 to 15 year period before other nationalities were allowed to participate in the Girl Scouts. So I know that you've had a view here of all of the wonderful stones that the troops have left behind with their troop numbers painted on. But I would like to tell you as a side note that Juliette is buried in her Girl Scout uniform, and there is a very special telegram in her breast pocket. So when Juliette died, the Girl Scouts of Oklahoma sent a telegram. It read, "You are not just the first Girl Scout, you are the best Girl Scout of them all." So take it as you will, but we can certainly say that Juliette was completely invested in what she was doing and in her support of young women.